Hello, and welcome to the last of our series of hybrid work environment webinars presented by Kensington. This is Thrive in the Hybrid Work Environment, Raising Productivity for At-Home Workers. If you'd like to take a listen to the other 3 webinars that we've done, you can locate them on YouTube, and there's some really great content in them. So thank you today for joining. No matter where you are in the world, we appreciate that you're here with us. My name is Lisa Skydebor-Schuler, and I'm one of the hybrid work specialists with Kensington. And then I also have Rory Morgan and Cole with me today that will be helping support a lot of the great information we have today. So we are only here for 30 minutes, so we want to make sure that we can get through everything. So our agenda today is pretty simple. We want to talk about how well did we actually prepare for that home working kind of shuffle when COVID first started. And then we also want to talk about some of those tips if we maybe didn't prepare 100% or we're not there yet, on how we can boost that at-home productivity for those remote workers. And then also go through some simple equipment solutions. And as always, we welcome you to have any questions into the chat area throughout the presentation, and we'll answer those at the end. And we certainly hope that you guys find some great content in here to help you or your employees be more productive at home. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Rory to go through how well you prepared for home working.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everybody. Just to give myself a brief introduction, my name is Rory Morgan. I head up the European marketing team for Kensington. So we did a lot of work looking into home working habits over the past year due to kind of what happened with the pandemic and lockdowns, etc. We got some really good data from our research on how we prepared from working from home and kind of what that means for us in terms of our productivity and in our home working environment. So when we looked at kind of what was happening pre-pandemic, it seems like a distant memory now, especially for us in Europe. We actually haven't been back to our office for about 15 months now. But when we were in the office, we were working alongside our colleagues. We had a dedicated desk with, and I had all of my equipment there. I had two screens. Access to all of the equipment I could possibly need in terms of stuff in the stationery cupboard. Obviously, working for Kensington, we have access to all of our IT peripherals as well. And then you compare that to what happened when we were sent home from the office. And I know this differs across the world, but in the UK where I'm based, we got told on one day, okay, go home now. You're working from home until we tell you to come back. So we had like no notice, no planning really to do anything. So it was kind of take your laptop with you and make sure you can get online for the next few months, because that's all we thought it would last for. And this is the case for lots of organisations. It was very much reactive. It was kind of nobody knew it was going to last this long, and the priority was just getting online and making sure that we could continue to do our work where we were, as opposed to really planning it and planning for being productive, safe, and well when we were at home. So this meant that there's lots of people working at home with just their laptop on surfaces that aren't designed for the workday. So you can see the image here. There's someone working on a coffee table. Her posture is awful. Her productivity is going to be nowhere near as good as it would have been in the office. We have all of the accessories available to you. So it was something that was kind of needed to happen. Obviously, we all had to go home, but it wasn't something that we were able to plan. So we ran a study of IT sort of decision makers throughout 2020, and we sort of asked a few questions about what they were doing in terms of their working from home strategy for their employees. So just over 55% of the respondents said that they were prioritizing productivity as the area where they were offering the most support for effective remote working. So this sounds like quite a lot, but there's half the people that were focusing on other things as their main focus for getting people online and working productively. only 42% of the respondents said that they seen an improvement in productivity through remote working. But a lot of the reasons for this were really interesting. So, you can see on the screen here, there was things like less distractions, more flexible hours, better work-life balance, and no travel time. So it was more about how people were using their time as opposed to how easy it was to do their job. So the fact that people weren't doing an hour commute each way meant that they had an extra hour or two to do their work. That's great, and that's one of the benefits of working from home. But there's a real a gap in the responses that we got, where it was, as I said, it was all down to how people were using their time as opposed to how effectively they were using that time that they had, that extra time that they'd been given. So yeah, there was over 50%. So basically, the other half of the respondents said that they'd reported a reduction in productivity or a lack of improvement in productivity. And when we sort of dived down into the data, the reasons for this were coming up on the survey, where people were kind of giving their free text response. So yeah, next slide, please, Carl. So yeah, so people were saying that it was more difficult to work effectively with a team of people. So they obviously didn't have the right sort of collaboration tools for their teams. Again, not having proper equipment was another big one that came up. So something that I know Lisa will come on to later on is that the lack of a second screen is a huge thing when you're working from home. If you are working on just your laptop, it's enough to get by, but or as I'd like to call it, it's enough to survive, but it's not enough to thrive when you're working from home. So it's really important that we think about what equipment our home working colleagues need. One of the other things was a lack of communication. So I think this is general across what happened through the pandemic. It was very difficult for kind of leadership to communicate what was going on in terms of plans of getting to and from the office, and how long this was going to last for, because nobody knew. But also in terms of collaborating with your colleagues on projects and stuff like that, it would have been done in a meeting room or a collaborative space beforehand, but we all suddenly had to learn how to use Zoom and Microsoft Teams instead, which was a big shock to the system. Another big one was distractions caused by the home environment, and in Europe, a lot of this was down to school closures. So I'm sure some of you on the call will be parents and experienced kind of schools shutting down throughout the pandemic, and realizing the value of our teachers and how well they do to put up with kids being crazy all day. But it's a serious thing. When we've seen videos of kids coming onto in the background of conference calls, and I'm sure it's happened to some of us in the past. These distractions do come into the home environment. And then there was another couple of points that came out. Really interesting one was like focus and well-being. So obviously mentally has been a tough 2 years for lots of people, and dealing with that whilst trying to remain productive and good at your job has been a challenge. So there's organizations that have been sort of outperforming others have been those that have given a real focus to their staff well-being, and given their staff tools to sort of deal with the stresses and the strains of pandemic life, but also working from home and the changes in scenery for them. Okay, so you want to go to the next one, Cole? And then something that I think Lisa's going to come on to as well, and it's one of Lisa's specialties, but one of the things that we found when we were doing our sort of research into this was that Lenovo actually did a study back in July of 2020, so right in the middle of kind of the pandemic as it was happening across the globe, and they found that remote worker health is taking a massive hit. So there was people reporting lower back pain, almost a third of people reporting lower back pain, worsening posture, and that's all down to, as I said at the start, our work environments not being designed for working from home. They're not being designed to be worked on. They're designed to be, to eat your meal or to watch TV in front of. And again, increases in neck pain were coming out because of this as well. And then finally, reporting more headaches. So one of the big things that happened over the course of the pandemic was that people were encouraged to stay indoors, stay at home, which meant that we all had more exposure to screens. In our workday, when we were having meetings, they perhaps would have been away from our desk in a meeting room face to face with our colleagues. But when during the pandemic, it was right in front of our computer screens the whole time. So our whole work day is right in front of a screen, and we're getting exposed to more and more blue light. And then you turn one screen off, you go turn another screen on in your living room, watch TV or use your iPad or whatever. So you're almost constantly exposed to this blue light, which has real negative effects on your sort of your mental well-being, your hormone levels, as well as your eye health as well. And it can contribute to some serious problems, as well as eye strain, headaches, and all that sort of stuff as well. So there's steps you can take to sort of reduce the blue light. And I know that perhaps this is one of the things that Release will come on to, is that some of our products in our range, our privacy filters, have blue light blocking technology in them as well. So not only do you benefit from the privacy element of people not being able to look over your shoulder, when you have that film on your screen, it blocks out that blue light, so it doesn't affect you and affect your sleep, and your give you more headaches, as these people in this study have found.
Yeah, Rory, that is a ton of great information. There's so many great statistics in there, and some of the things that you mentioned around blue light, we did expand a lot on in the data protection and security webinar as part of our hybrid series. And a lot of the information as far as being an at-home worker overlaps with being a flexible worker, which is one of the other webinars that we did too. So if you're hearing things today that are interesting, but you want to know more information, you're always welcome to reach out to us. We'll have our email address at the end, but it's sales@kensington.com. Or you can take a listen to the other webinars that we did that expand a little bit more on those specific opportunities as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can boost the at-home worker productivity specifically. And so with that being said, we want to make sure that every at-home worker is totally equipped for that success model there. So with that, I want to make sure that we are able to remind our employees to pay attention to the employee wellness. I think when we all were sent home during that pandemic starting point, we just had to try to figure out how to get our jobs done. And the wellness went by the wayside. And the further we went down that path of realizing that we would be home for quite some time, employee wellness has started to creep up to the top of the priority list for a lot of really large and smaller organizations as well. So doing simple things like reminding employees to take time to move and just stretch throughout the day. If you do have the luxury of having a very quiet workspace, sometimes it's even more quiet than what it was in the normal office, and you can start sitting and focusing for hours just trying to get your job done, and then you stand up and you're stiff. So making sure that you are moving frequently. A question that I'm frequently asked is how frequently should you stand up throughout the day? And I can tell you the next movement is always the best movement, but it should be ideally about 20 minutes of every hour you are standing or moving around. And I realize that's not always possible, but that is the kind of ideal position there. Also finding a space to work with plenty of natural light and a good temperature. I can't tell you how many times if it was in the winter where I'm cuddled up with a blanket and then I get sleepy, or if I've worked in a space that I don't have nice natural light coming in, I feel like I'm enclosed and it makes me feel very demotivated to do my work. So choosing that right space and giving employees the opportunity to know what that space would look like in their own homes is key. Also, just having a remote physical fitness program, there's tons of virtual options out there with yoga, as well as online fitness sessions, and also walking meetings if you're able to go outside your home and walk in the area. If you are interested in virtual yoga, Kensington does actually offer some different yoga sessions with a great group of people. So if you are interested in that, let us know and we can certainly get you information on that too. That's been a great community. And then encouraging a virtual commute. I can tell you, I never thought I wanted to commute to a job again until I'm working from home 100% of the time, because you realize that you value that time of waking up and having that me time to get from home to the office. Now, that might typically include a lot of traffic or changing trains or metros or whatever it might be. But what we don't realize is when we're going from our bedroom to the very next room to work, we're not taking that time to clear our mind and really set ourselves up to work for the day. So, trying to go for a morning walk, listening to a podcast, just taking some time at the beginning and the end of the day to really start and finish that work day is important to establish that routine. And then thinking about the productivity aspect of it, as Rory mentioned, having two screens at your workstation, so whether that's two actual screens or a laptop and a desktop screen, it can actually improve your productivity by up to 42%. Now, that is amazing to me that just by adding another screen, it adds that much productivity. But if you've ever worked on just your laptop, versus maybe being in the office where you had two screens and you're able to spread your workflow out, you do realize how much faster and more efficient you can be at things. So, with the cost of technology coming down so great, if you have it in your budgets to be able to look at adding that second screen or getting your laptop screen with the laptop riser up to the right level, it's a great way to promote the extra productivity. The other one that I wanted to test to make sure that we could have that validation there is ergonomic keyboards sometimes look a little bit funny as they're curved. So we tested our ProFit ergonomic keyboard and gave it to people that had never used a curved ergonomic keyboard before. Let them try it for 2 weeks, and they actually typed 9% faster after using the curved keyboard. So I can tell you with any ergonomic equipment, typically it's not a within the first hour I'm typing faster or mousing faster. It's an adjustment, but it's an adjustment to your comfort so that you are able to have that long-term effect of productivity and comfort built into that type of device. And so, trying to equip your team for productivity, having a setup that your employees enjoy being in is certainly key. If they're working just off their laptops and they're feeling crunched and crammed for space, that can be, again, really demotivating for those employees. So, making sure that they have the equipment needed, whether it's a monitor stand, laptop riser, that extra keyboard and mouse, or an extra screen to be in a setup that they feel comfortable to get their job done will make them happy as well as more productive. One popular thing that I'd like to bring up today is in virtual assessments, if you do have an ergonomic employee that is conducting assessments for people, they have found this system extremely valuable, which is our SmartFit system. Also, you do not have to have an ergonomic professional to know how to use the SmartFit system. But what it is every ergonomic product that has the SmartFit name in there comes equipped with a hand, like you see on the screen here, or a hand chart. And basically, you place your hand on there, and there's four different colors wherever your hand falls within that, so this person is in that orangish red color, then you would look on the piece of equipment and there's that same color coded chart on the piece of equipment to adjust it to exactly the right spot for you. Now, this data came from a variety of US Army data, soldier statures, that we were actually able to figure out how proximity wise you should actually be able to raise your laptop riser, place your footrest, your monitor arm, as well as other equipment on your desktop to really be fit for you based on those anthropometric measurements of your body. And I say that it's great for someone that it's four easy colors, or if you do have someone that's doing an ergonomic assessment or a DSE assessment for you, they're able to know from a virtual location exactly where that equipment is for your employees or for you yourself. So it's very, very easy to use in that at home work situation to ensure the right fit. And so some of the items that we can look at to really accelerate that productivity at home, that keyboard that I spoke of, that people took 2 weeks to try typing on it, as you can see, there is that slight curve in it. But after that adjustment period, they were typing 9% faster than on a standard keyboard, which is great. And we do have that as just a keyboard, or there's also a nice vertical mouse that goes with it too that offers great benefits for your wrist. We also have several types of universal compatibility docking stations available. I've listed two that are here, and some of them are available in certain regions and not in others. But we also have a new dock coming out as well, that basically makes it easy for any type of device to connect, so that you can actually have people have the same equipment across the board and know as an IT professional that you are equipping your workers with something that you can help support. And they're also able to have all of those nice USB connections, as well as having the external monitor connected as well. And then this does overlap to the flexible worker presentation that we had given, in another one of our webinars, but that work from anywhere kit. I bring this up today for the at-home working, as many people do not have a specific at-home office space. And so this is the basics of having the productivity for your at-home worker, which would be a laptop riser that gets your screen to be the appropriate level, and then also having a keyboard and mouse. And that is something that you do have to provide the keyboard and mouse as soon as you have that laptop riser, because as soon as your laptop goes up onto that riser, the angle to type on it is too severe for your wrist health. So you have to bring yourself close with the keyboard and mouse. But then again, that's going to offer the best setup possible with just a laptop situation. So we have the multi-device compact keyboard that is Bluetooth and wireless, as well as several varieties of mice, trackballs, vertical mice, but my favorite to travel with, which I actually just took um, most recently, and you'll see it on LinkedIn if you follow us there, is the SureTrack mouse. That it's super small and portable. I can fit all of these items in my backpack and not weigh it down, and still have extra room for other things easily as well. And so I wanted to go through a little bit of a checklist as far as productivity while you're working from home. So making sure, again, that you have access to those second screens, thinking about that 40% productivity boost. I don't know too many things besides maybe hiring another employee that's going to offer the extra productivity there. Providing docking stations so that people can easily connect and not have to fumble around with a lot of cords. And then also providing remote workers with the external input devices, such as the laptop riser if you do not have extra screens, or the mice and keyboards. And then trying to conduct the online desk assessment, making sure that they do have that comfortable space to work in, whether that is with an ergonomic professional or it's a simple checklist to see where your employees are at, to make sure they have the basic equipment that's needed. Kensington has been helping tons of companies around the globe with what these spaces would look like at home, as well as in the office, and somewhere in between of what we're calling this hybrid work environment. And this all sends the message that when you're able to provide this equipment and provide the guidance to your employees, that happy, healthy workers are always going to be more productive and more willing to get the job done. So encourage your employees to build that workspace that they enjoy, and that works for them. There's not a one size fits all solution, but there's certainly some guidance that can taper down that list to make it easy to select from. Um, some of those suggestions to really build that space for working from home successfully as well is allowing remote teams to expense their work tools to make their life easier. We've seen a lot of different arrangements, whether it's a stipend or just from a purchase card, or from a departmental expense. And we're happy to talk through what we've seen in the industry, or building a standards list for employees to pick from. A lot of times, if you have an established IT procurement process, this is a great way to make sure that people have a standard to go by, so they're not purchasing some random thing that may not be ergonomic or may not have the right connectivity. So having those options set, if your organization is able to support that, is a great way to have that standard there too. But again, Kensington has been helping people all over the globe through the pandemic, and even pre-pandemic, that this was a really easy transition for us to be helping corporations and companies really figure out what needs we could help them meet with their in-office solutions, the at-home, and those workers that are going everywhere in between. So that does conclude the content portion of our webinar. But if you do have any questions today, we do have just a couple minutes left. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Otherwise, do make sure you check out kensington.com, where we have tons of blogs around hybrid working, as well as white papers. It's where new products come out, as well as our email address that's listed there, which is sales@kensington.com. And again, we talked about a few things today, which was the Do Your Homework survey from EMEA or the UK that had all of those great statistics that Rory mentioned. We also mentioned the yoga sessions that Kensington is doing on I believe it's a weekly basis. Feel free to shoot us an email if you'd like more information about those. But again, if you have any questions, you are welcome to drop them in the chat box. And I will tell you too, if there are not any questions, again, the blogs on kensington.com are pretty much updated um, at least monthly, if not more often, with hybrid content. I can tell you I've been putting a lot of content out there on hybrid working. And then again, our webinars that we recorded on other topics related to hybrid work are available on YouTube as well.
So we don't have any questions rolling in right now, but I have a question for the two of you myself, since
Sure.
we've all been in the situation of being remote work and some of us now being able to go back to our office. How have y'all been able to incorporate some of the things we've talked about today in your own personal remote work experience?
So I can go first, Rory, if you'd like. So for myself, I made sure that I did have additional equipment and took the time to set up an appropriate office for myself. We actually moved households to actually have a full office, which is a bit extreme. But that being said, I added an additional screen. And then if you do follow me on LinkedIn at all, I'm always posting wherever I'm working that I've been able to be a flexible worker with the solutions that are offered by Kensington. So you might see it in a hotel lobby or my dog on a footrest. And basically, having that equipment available to me has been invaluable to just feel like I'm walking into an office and able to be productive in that way.
Yeah, and from my side, a couple of things I did. The first day that I started working from home, I was sat at my dining table, and I had a laptop riser and a mouse and a keyboard, as Lisa mentioned. But I sat at my dining table, and within a few hours, I started getting a lot of backache because I was on just a terrible, terrible chair. So the next day, I went back into the office, picked up my office chair, which you can almost kind of see behind me. You can definitely hear it, 'cause it's quite squeaky. So I got that. I also bought a standing desk where I can press a button and it raises and lowers, which is an absolute revelation. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. Um, and yeah, on that desk, I've got all my equipment. So I've got dual screens and my mouse, keyboard, my Sonos speaker. So I've always got some music on in the background. Outside of equipment, one of the things that Lisa mentioned earlier, which I found really useful, is the walking meeting. So throughout the pandemic, we have just been doing more and more video calls because a lot of the conversations we could have had in the office just by kind of turning to somebody and ask, you have to obviously book it in the diary now. So I find myself, my days are just kind of back-to-back meetings quite often. So when we have like our team meeting or a team call when we don't have to be on video, sometimes I'll just put my AirPods in and I'll dial in on Teams on my phone and go for a walk outside, and while we're still having that conversation. So for these like informal meetings where it's a bit of a catch up, you don't need to make any notes or be on video. I find that really helps because you're working as by speaking to people, but you're out in the sunshine walking, which if we all have busy days, and for those of us who have kids coming home from school at the end of our workday, it's hard to get out and have some fresh air and some exercise. So that walking meeting or the virtual commute, those things I think are really, really valuable for sort of taking a break and being out and getting some steps in.
That's a good one too.
That is a good one that I've also been trying to incorporate into my day and has incredibly helped me as far as productivity and keeping sane with everything. And And thank you all for your amazing information that we're given today at this webinar. And like Lisa said, if you have any questions that we didn't get to address today, please feel free to email sales@kensington.com. And if you have questions about our yoga meetings, please email there as well, or reach out to us. We'll get the information to you. And if there are no more questions, thank you all so much for attending. And we hope to see you again and hope that you now can thrive in your hybrid work environment effectively. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.